All Departments is sponsored by the White Bear Micro Pub on Southbourne Grove, the perfect pre- and post-game venue to chat about the game and only a 25-minute walk to the ground, or there's a bus stop right outside. Wear your AFCB shirt on any match day and receive 30p off each pint. Check out www.thewhitebear.co.uk.
Here come the cherries and we're heading for the top of the tree. Bournemouth is a team that's going to show Division 3. Here come the leaders and the scorers at the Saturday, showing how to win the Southern way. So we sing, come on Bournemouth, come on Bournemouth. While you're out there winning, hear the shouting and the singing. We sing, come on Bournemouth, come on Bournemouth. Here come the cherries, here come the cherries, here come the cherries, number one.
Hello and welcome to All Departments. Our indefatigable Cherries scored deep into injury time yesterday to claim a draw in a game that looked lost more than once against Everton. Here to look back on an unforgettable first league meeting against the Toffee Men is Ady Brown. Ady, welcome to All Departments.
Hello. How are you doing?
Yeah, well, I'm good actually. I've been feeling on a bit of a high today after yesterday's events. I read somewhere before the game that we hadn't scored in front of the North Stand since Callum Wilson fired home against Bolton in April, that night when we were promoted, or all but promoted to the Premier League. It was a long wait for goals at the Steve Fletcher stand, but if nothing else, we certainly put that right yesterday, didn't we?
Absolutely, and what a way to do it as well. I mean, Adam Smith, I don't know about you, but if I scored a goal like that, I think I'd still be running now, telling everybody I know, what did you see it? Look at what I did. I mean, that was just, what a hit.
Yeah, I think we're going to see that one on Goal of the Month. Most of the drama took place in the last, 15, 20 minutes or so. Up until that point, it wasn't looking great. But just to go back to the beginning, we named an unchanged team from that drew with Swansea. Were you surprised that Eddie went with the five in midfield and one up front when we were playing at home?
No, I don't. Well, I mean, a lot of it has kind of been forced by necessity with some of the injuries and stuff we've got at the moment. But I think Josh King, we've seen over the last few games, is really kind of growing into that lone striker. I don't know about you, but I think you can really fault his work rate at the moment. And he's running around, he's making himself a nuisance, and it's very, very similar to the formation that we had at Swansea. I think it was an unchanged lineup, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We kind of really picked up from where we left that game as well, with with King running around making himself a nuisance. Stanislas again, just totally different player from what we saw last season as well, making himself a real nuisance again on the wing. And I think when we had the ball, I mean, we were causing Everton some problems at times as well, and it's been really, really good to see. So I don't think you can really fault the level of commitment from the players at the moment.
No, I wasn't surprised that Eddie went with, the same team, and certainly not the same formation, because he seemed to chance upon it. I'm sure it wasn't that fortuitous. He seems to know what he's doing, but against Southampton and in the second half, and he's kind of stuck with those players pretty much since that game. Although there were some significant substitutions yesterday, which we'll come on to. I was briefly in the main reception yesterday before the game, and we were there. Right. I was there with my two boys as the Everton team were getting off the bus, and they were coming off, and there's Kone, there's Lukaku, there's Delafeu. My 9-year-old said to me, "We've lost this one," and I said, "Well, I'm glad you're not giving the team talk." But I mean, they've got a strong team, and they've had some pretty good results recently. So we have improved. But I went into the game with, I guess I always do. I think I even used to when we were in League Two, with a certain amount of apprehension. But there was, like I already said, there was drama later on. But we actually started quite well until we conceded the goals. We kept possession, and we had most of the game was played in their half in the first 15 minutes or so. We had a few chances. Dan Gosling shot wide across Tim Howard, and Howard looked beaten for that one. and Richie hit one straight at Howard. I think King had a shot as well. But the turning point in the first half seemed to come along when Federici and Cook both seemed to get injured around 15 minutes, and there was a delay, and then after that we weren't the same, were we? For some reason we kind of lost momentum, didn't we?
Yeah, it was. It was a real funny one, but I think echo your kind of sentiments from the start of the game. I mean, you go through and you look at the Everton lineup, certainly after they turned Villa over 4-0 the previous week, and Howard, Collins, Stones, McCarthy, Barry, Delafeu, Barkley, Kone, Lukaku, and you're thinking, oh my God, how the hell on earth are we going to get anything out of this game? But I think it just goes to show, the Premier League is the Premier League, and you can beat any team, you can beat anyone on the day. And we did when we started really, really brightly. And I have to say, I missed the incident that took down Cook and took down Federici as well. And so what actually happened there? Because I kind of looked up at 1 minute and you saw Cook's down on the deck holding his shoulder, and Federici's there just looking in quite a lot of pain as well. So what the rumours after the game that he was going round in an air boot as well, but he looked to be quite uncomfortable and testing what looked to be an ankle or a knee or something at some point.
Yeah, I think it was his ankle. I think I'm probably in the same boat as you, as I didn't actually see it happen, but it seemed to happen quite soon after a corner. When I looked back, he was on the ground, and I think he might have come out to do what he usually does, which is punch, and he might and he may have landed awkwardly. Cook, I've got no idea what happened, but they were both down. And Ryan Alsop was pulling on the gloves even before. This is when the two of them were injured. The stretcher was coming on, and you just thought, well, Alsop's going to come on.
I thought he'd gone. I thought he'd gone but you'd be right about the momentum. It really kind of knocked us a little bit. But it was a difficult one as well. From the way that Everton set themselves up, it was like looking at a really, really, really good version of ourselves, because they set themselves up to kind of retain possession, hit us on the break, and as the rest of it went on, it was quite difficult to watch at some point, because you saw the likes of Arter and Gosling, who have been really good. Nick Gosling, especially in the last couple of weeks, just in his all-round play, but they just seem to be making a lot of really sloppy mistakes, really. But I don't know if that was just because they, the disruption kind of affected them a little bit in that point, and they didn't get the chance to kind of play themselves back into the game, or just Everton just seemed to be on us. Every time we got the ball, it was bang. There was a player there closing us down, forcing us into errors as well. And we went in at half time at 2-0 down, and thinking, oh God, this is this could be another Tottenham, really.
Yeah, we have this reputation for starting quickly.
Yeah.
And sometimes we actually score when we start quickly. We did against Swansea, 2 goals. It didn't get us the win in the end. And sometimes we don't. Yesterday we didn't. And then, like we've already said, the whole momentum, the tempo completely changed when we had those injuries. I don't really know why that was, apart from it perhaps gave Everton a few minutes just to regroup, have a chat, sort themselves out. I thought they were very well organised. And like you said, we started to make what looked like unforced errors. The one that stuck out for me was Simon Francis' kind of backwards header. That he headed it where he wasn't facing. He was facing towards the Steve Fletcher stand and kind of headed it behind him. It landed at Kone's feet, and Kone should have done better. When they showed it on Match of the Day, they made it look like Kone had a cracking shot and Federici got down well to save it, which he did. He did make a couple of saves, actually, Federici, that, even though he had to go off, did give us the chance to get the point in the end. But Kone should have actually squared that ball into the middle, where I think Lukaku and possibly Bartley were waiting, and they'd have just tapped it in.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I was surprised that I was surprised he didn't square the ball back. Actually, he did take the shot himself, because it was. You're right. I think it was Lukaku doing his usual, arriving late, just looking for the ball, and I think it turned out it was actually a very, very, very good save. But I don't know what you thought as well, but actually for all the possession that Everton had, outside of the 2 goals that they scored and that save, they didn't really threaten too much. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think they should have had more goals, and I think they should have put the game to bed. And we'll go on and talk about the second half in a minute. But, for a large part of the second half, even though we improved a bit, they weren't really... Yeah. They were kind of playing as if they were leading 3-0 in a large part of the second half. 2-0's never... You're never safely home at 2-0.
It's never a comfortable one, is it?
Yeah, I guess when you get into the last 5 minutes, I mean, yesterday was an exception, but if they'd have been 2-0 up with 5 minutes to go, they weren't. They were it was actually 2-2 at that point. Then you could think, well, we can see this game out at 2-0. But 2-0 at half-time, you'd rather be 2-0 up than 2-0 down. But they just didn't come out and look for the third goal. And I think 3-0 would have killed it. I mean, they got 3 goals in the end, but it wasn't 3-0. And so, they were kind of... When they started scoring in the first half, I thought, oh, no, not again. This is going to be one of these games where we're conceding 4 or 5 goals and just getting a right spanking. Yeah,
I know. But I think... up until the point where they had the go-ahead goal for the third, I don't actually remember... also having too much to do, certainly in the second. I know we're probably skipping ahead at the moment, but I don't remember having too much to do in the second half. So I think you're right. It was almost like they tried to see the game out a little bit.
Yeah, I certainly think they'll be kicking themselves over that because they should have won the game from their point of view. I mean, they had enough chances in terms of how far ahead they were. They were 2-0 up, and of course, we'll speak about in a little while, they were 3-2 up, and they should have taken the points. We weren't in the lead at any point, but we still came out of the game feeling like we'd actually won it, even though we didn't.
It's a real funny one when you come out of the fixture like yesterday. Again, drawing through, thinking like you win, thinking or feeling like you have won. But I kind of feel that we've been knocking on the door of a performance like this probably since the start of the second half of the Southampton game. And I think you're right, whether or not we lucked into that formation or not. I think in the last 2 or 3 games, just our overall play has actually been really, really good. And we're only just, my own thoughts is we're only really a couple of pieces away in the puzzle away from actually having a really, really good team, certainly at this level, because it's the third game in a row where we've dominated possession, we've dominated the shots, and we've actually dominated the amount of chances that we've created. I mean, I don't think that necessarily tells the full story from yesterday because of the type of game that Everton played, but things are starting to kind of come together very, very slowly. Whether or not we've got enough time to do anything with it or not, I don't know. But there's promising signs there at the moment.
Yeah, Eddie's found a way to start making it work with what's available to him in terms of personnel at the moment. And there's definitely been an upturn. There's been an upturn in results, even though we've only actually got 2 points out of those 3 games you mentioned. We're still leaking goals, which is a big problem, and that's something that I think needs to be addressed. I mean, if we just look at their 2 goals from yesterday, the first one we conceded a corner, and this was, I thought, a badly defended corner. It was. I mean, everybody gets excited when there's a corner. Whenever we get a corner, I'm cheering, and you think, oh, the ball's going to go in, and we're going to have a shot, and that's a good chance. But actually, they don't result in goals very often. But yesterday's one did, and it was pretty poor defending from us. So France has conceded the corner, and it was just a simple goal for them. Bartley crossed it into the 6-yard box. Cook was marking Funes Mori, but he just didn't seem to jump. Cook was kind of pushing him a little bit, not like really pushing him, but just hands on him. And he's Argentinian, isn't he, Funes Mori? And he just didn't even jump that high. He just got above Cook, whose feet were just planted to the ground. I don't know if he was injured or not, and headed in. I didn't think there was much Federici could have done about it, really. But it just looked like Funes Mori wanted it more. And then it went off Josh King's head on the line. I don't think King had any responsibility there. And then I was sat in the family stand at the end of the main stand, and he was so ecstatic about scoring Funes Mori, and I thought that must have been his first goal for Everton. I looked it up later, it was his first goal, because he ran over, he'd done a neat slide which went on for about 10 yards. There was a mark on the pitch for the rest of the game. He was doing the old heart sign. He was like punching the air, and on the way back to the halfway line he was kissing his hands and like pointing up at the heavens and all that sort of thing. I thought, it's important to score a goal, but this guy's like really making the most of this one. But I mean, for him it was obviously great. For Everton it was great. For us it was, I thought we dealt with it really, really poorly, that corner.
Yeah, I mean, both their celebrations were a little bit over the top, though, weren't they? It was, I mean, I noticed that one at the time. They had everyone running over there, thinking, "You haven't won the Champions League. You've just gone 1-0 up with, most of the game still remaining." But, I mean, that goal, yeah, frustrating again. And I think it sounds really, really critical of me, but when you go back and you look at the majority of the goals that we've conceded, I mean, in my opinion, this season, unfortunately, Cook's kind of been at the heart of a lot of it, and I don't want to seem like I'm being overly critical of him, because I think technically he's a very, very good player, but I just think he doesn't read. He just doesn't read a game particularly well up at the Premiership level. I mean, the goal itself was quite frustrating because there was a lot of similarities between that and Elphic's goal at Liverpool, and you got a player jumping over the defender's back, heading the ball, and it's gone in, and it's standing. So it's the consistency with the refereeing again, which is frustrating. But I mean, that and the second goal as well, which again we'll touch on into a minute as well. You're right. He went with him, and he didn't make it difficult for the Everton player. I can never pronounce his name now.
I think it's Fuentes Mori.
Is it Fuentes Mori?
We could just refer to him as the Argentinian, if you like.
Right, yeah, we'll go for that. Yeah, the Argentinian. He jumped up, nodded the ball back across again, and it was soft. It was soft and weak, really, and it was disappointing and frustrating. Certainly at that point in the game. So, and we'll touch on to Cook again at the second goal as well, because I actually called that one to the guy who sits next to me about 20 seconds beforehand, which is yeah, it's just. I mean, what's your thoughts on that one as well? I mean, Cook, I know I'm kind of waffling a little bit now, but if you kind of go back and you look at, it's just some of the decisions. So like the Leicester game, 1-0 up, and you've got Vardy running in on goal. He's on his weaker foot. He's running away from the goalkeeper, and Cook again. He just went tendency, which he stopped doing in the last couple of games, but just to throw himself around the box, and it just seemed like a really, really ill thought out move at the time, because if you're going to go and do something like that, slide across the player and try to block the shot instead of try to tackle and to take him down. And as it turns out, that was two quite expensive points to go and concede as well there. And there's other instances elsewhere this season. Again, the Tottenham game was another one. I think it was just before Tottenham's third, where the ball got crossed back across the box into Boric's hands when he dropped it. And Cook, he slid across at that moment as well, and Man City as well. And any players or Premier League strikers who've got a bit about them can kind of see the move coming in and take the step back, allow the player to slide across the front of them, and then they've got the whole box that they can just target their cross at. Whereas if he's not standing off of his man, just making it difficult for him as well. And I don't know, you look to the team at the moment, and people like Charlie Daniels, Simon Francis, Dan Gosling as well, they've really made the step up, and they don't look out of place in the Premier League at the moment. But if you're kind of thinking at the moment, if we do survive this season and we look to start to kick on as that established Premier League side, the likes of Palace, or someone who can go and finish between 12th and 15th each season, it's a worry for me at the back at the moment, and we can't be relying on scoring 3 goals in every game at the moment to get a point in the Premier League, because it's gonna hurt us long term. And it's a bit surprising, bearing in mind how strong we were last year at the back.
Yeah, I think we were stronger going forward than we were at the back last year, but it didn't show up as much, because obviously we were playing against teams that got good players but weren't anything like what we've come up against this season, and we were scoring so many goals. The ball was being played so much in the opposition's half. We were scoring loads of goals. We had loads and loads of possession. We were just able to dominate teams, and this year that hasn't been possible. And therefore the defence has been called into action a lot more. It's been found wanting on occasions. And I think you mentioned, Charlie Daniels, I think, has been superb. I mean, I thought the way he handled Deulofeu yesterday was excellent, and King and Stanislas have been given plaudits for their performances yesterday, and rightly so. I probably would have had Daniels down as the man of the match, just because, I mean, before we played the game, I went through that little list of Everton players earlier when I saw them getting off the coach, but Deulofeu was the one I was most worried about, and he just seemed unstoppable.
Yeah.
And I thought Charlie handled him really, really well. He didn't have a huge impact on the game, although he did have the assist for the second goal. Distan is.
I mean, they had a good little tussle, didn't they? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go on, it's all right. Distan, he's an excellent defender, but I just think that he just makes little mistakes sometimes, or isn't quite there when he should be when the opposition are getting into our box. I mean, I'm really impressed with some of the stuff Distan's done, and I've said before, I thought that there was a point when I was looking at him thinking, is he the best defender I've ever seen play for us? And maybe he is, or maybe he would have been sort of a few years ago when he was in his prime. I mean, considering he's 38 next month, and he's in great shape, and he certainly doesn't look like a player of that age. And then there's Steve Cook, of course, and he's probably been the one who has had the finger pointed at him the most in terms of what's happening in the defence. I don't know if it is that he misses his partnership with Tommy Elphick, I think he's probably most vulnerable. I know he's just had a baby as well, and I mean, you can't sort of give those things as excuses, but you may have been lacking in sleep. I remember when my kids were born, I seemed to go days without sleep. But anyway, I think if Tommy, when I was sat in this reception, I wasn't there for long. I overheard Tommy Elphick say to somebody he'd be back in a couple of weeks. So whether that's the date when he'll be back in training or he'll be back in, available for selection, I don't know. But I'd say Steve Cook's probably the most vulnerable. Go on.
Yeah, I think we miss the communication.
Yeah,
because Tommy's really vocal at the back, and he's really good at organising stuff. And again, if you look back at the Swansea second from last week. If you go back and you watch the replay, again, the whole defence have tried to step up there, but we haven't read the fact that Ayew's Shelvey's just about to go nod the ball back into the box, which, in the defence's defence, if you can excuse the poor choice of language and everything there, he should never have been allowed to do that in the first place. But Cook, if you look at the replay from behind the goal, Cook stepped up to try to play him offside, and instead of kind of anticipating the move that's about to happen, and is there just to kind of stand behind him, actually stop him from, essentially what he did, he backheeled the ball into the net, which is it's just an unforgivable goal to concede, isn't it? I mean, if we went and scored it, you'd be raving about it, type of thing. If Wilson or Arter went and did it, and say, that's why they're the greatest player in that position that we've had, and it's brilliant. But when you're on the receiving end of it, it's a bit of a head face in your hands moment, thinking, oh no, how have we done? So yeah, and you have to kind of try and take the sentiment out of it as well, isn't it? Because we do really want to go and kick on to that next level as a club. You got to, that's why I'm quite pleased I'm not Eddie Howe and kind of making those kind of decisions where you go and lose players who actually have been very, very good for us in the past. And if Josh King and Junior Stanislas are an example, I mean, I would love it if over the next couple of weeks they sort themselves out and they become a rock at the back, because you want your team to do well.
Yeah, I think it definitely is an area where Eddie will be considering bringing somebody in the window. I'd say it's probably easier to sign defenders than it is forwards at any time, but certainly during the January window, I don't know who's going to be available, but yeah, we could do a bit more, experience maybe of playing in this league, and just another option. He hasn't given Bailey Cargill a chance, although that could be getting closer if Tommy isn't fit soon. But we'll see. Well, I was just going to move on to the
no nonsense defender, don't you?
Yeah,
go for
definitely.
It,
I was going to move on to the second goal that Everton scored, and this will give us another chance to put poor old Steve Cook under the spotlight, because Barkley.
If you're listening, Steve, we are sorry.
Barkley passed the ball to Deulofeu, and Deulofeu favoured this kind of swinging early ball into Lukaku. He tried it a few times. It was the kind of ball we started playing into Glenn Murray when Murray was starting games for us, and we were swinging the ball in early. I think we learned it off Glenn Johnson when we played against Stoke. And it was just then a matter of Cook and Lukaku, and who was going to get there first. Lukaku, it was all about the three things: the speed, the strength, and the skill. He had a touch when he pushed it in front of him. He gave himself enough space. He got away from Cook, and then he just swiveled like lightning and scored on his weaker foot as well. His right foot, he's left-footed, isn't he? And beat Federici at the near post. And it's never good when your goalie gets beaten at the near post. I actually thought that it had hit the side netting from where I was, and then very soon afterwards I see the ball bouncing around in the goal and Lukaku running off. And it was unfortunately again,
it's a tough one at the near post as well.
Cook looked second best again there, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, I said to the guy, so my mate Luke, who sits next to me in the north stand, so I sit in the centre of the north stand, just at the back, kind of bang in line with the penalty spot. And just before the move happened, you saw Cook, you saw Lukaku peel off of Cook. He dropped maybe sort of 5 or 6 yards back, and Cook looked over his shoulder, really locked back. As Lukaku was then running to attack the ball and actually start to make the run, anticipate the pass that came from Delafeu, and a sprint then for the ball. They went wide. I mean, it was a good finish, I think, from Lukaku. It was a good finish in the fact that he scored it, but to get beaten at the near post like that, I think it was just the power of the shot, because he really got hold of it. And again, from where I sit, I mean, he hit it, and the speed he hit at, it was in the net, and they'd scored it, and he was peeling off before he kind of even realised what had happened. When you go back and you look at the replay again, I don't know if Federici would have saved it if he was carrying a knock or not there, because he looks like he's gone up and over his shoulder instead of, and you think maybe if he's carrying a knock or something on his ankle, could he have got that half a yard there closer to close the shot down or not? But it was another disappointing one, I think, from my point of view. It was a good finish, but it was just it was just. I kind of felt at that point that, again, as we touched on earlier, that was it. That was the game killed off by Everton, and it was just going to be another difficult afternoon all round.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought, oh no, here we go again. As I said earlier, this is going to be 4-0, 5-0, something like that, and we're just going to be back to square one after a little glimmer of hope against Swansea. So it's 2-0 down. We did have Steve Cook again featured in the other incident that stuck out for me towards the end of that half, was when there was what looked from where I was to be a goal line clearance from a Cook header. Richie had a corner, and Cook headed it goalwards. Stones cleared it, and we were thinking, that must have crossed the line. And then we think, well, they have this goal line technology and the little device on the ref's arms meant to vibrate or something if it's a goal, and you think, well, that must be broken. But when I saw it back afterwards, it was nowhere near over the line. No, unfortunately.
it was. I thought the same as you, because shortly after that we had the referee and his assistant having a good old chin mug on the side of the line, and I kind of cast my mind back at that point, thinking, well, what on earth are they talking about, or what can they possibly be talking about here? And I was, in my head at the moment, I thought, well, as the ball crossed the line, and because from my sitting view in the north stand, obviously you can't see it. So as the ball crossed the line and it's not worked, or have we missed something else? And then at half time, I don't know if you saw it, but they had one of the refs or one of the assistants was actually stood on the goal line in front of the north stand, waving the ball across the line, up in the corners and down the bottom, trying to test it or not. So I don't know if the device went off in his arm to signal a goal, but it was obviously nowhere near it or not. But it was, that was another interesting one. But kind of when you actually go back and you look at something like that, I mean, we actually had a couple of really good chances in the first half, didn't we? Because I think you touched on it earlier. Gosling got himself into a great position and managed to drag a shot across the post as well. And we. For all the Steve Cook bashing that we've been going on there, I think we probably could have gone in at 2-1 at half time. How do we take in those chances?
The White's Bear Micropub on Southbourne Grove is a proud supporter of AFC Bournemouth and sponsor of all departments. Head to the Bear for real ales, locally produced food, and plenty of good conversations about the cherries. Check out www.thewhitesbear.co.uk. So then we got to half time, and it was all looking pretty bleak. But Eddie
took action. He brought Adam Smith on for Steve Cook and moved Simon Francis to centre half. I assumed that was because Cook was injured, but apparently it was tactical. Cook was having a bit of a mare. We put the knife into him. We're talking about what happened in the first half. Eddie obviously wasn't impressed, and he took him off. I feel bad for him, but like you said, at times we have to depend on the manager to be ruthless in those situations. And of course, Ryan Alsop, who hadn't played, I looked it up, in a first team game for us since we played Burton Albion in the FA Cup in January 2014, so almost 2 years, came on in place of Adam Federici in goal. Federici's obviously injured. We think he might have quite badly sprained his ankle, and it sounds like he could be out for a little while, which of course leaves us with a bit of a goalkeeping dilemma. Boritz has been seen knocking about at Bournemouth Hospital. He's got some problem with his knee, I think. I was casting doubt on his...
Is it his knee?
Well, I heard it was his knee. I don't know. I think last week on the podcast I was saying, well, I wonder what's actually going on with Boritz. I wonder what the truth is. And then a day or two later, people were tweeting, I saw Boritz at the hospital. So I assume there is some sort of problem. And then, well, if Federici's out, we're kind of left with Ryan Alsop, who has gone from nowhere to playing in the Premier League yesterday. And I think we've got Jordan Holmes, the young I think it's Jordan Holmes. It might be someone else. The young Australian guy who plays in the development squad. I don't know if you're allowed to get an emergency keeper in, but anyway, Alsop all of a sudden could find himself kind of first choice, couldn't he?
Yeah, I know. I'm pleased you said that it was. What was it? It was January 2014 was the last time he played in the first team for us. Because I was trying to work it out in my head yesterday, and I couldn't remember him playing in the first team since we got promoted out of League One. Now I'm probably wrong on that front, but in my head it was like he played for us against Carlisle, and then that was it.
He started in the Championship. I don't remember him knocking
around for too much.
Yeah, he started a few games. Yeah, in the Championship, but then Eddie brought. I think he had a bit of a bad time. He played a game against Leicester away, and I think that was when Elliot Ward got sent off in.
That was it,
and he was having a bit of a mare, and then Eddie thought enough's enough, and he brought Lee Camp in, and Camp then went on a similar cycle, and then Boris has gone on a similar cycle as well. It seems to be a kind of pattern that they play really well, and then they start to lose their confidence, and it's such a confidence position. And anyway, now we've had the injuries as well, and Alsop, who was rated really highly when he was first here, and I remember Steve Fletcher saying that Neil Moss had told him that he was the real deal, but now people are thinking, Ryan Alsop's back in goal. That's a bit of a worry.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've got to give the poor lad a chance. But I remember, Fletcher as well saying, they thought that at one point we were going to be able to sell him for millions of pounds, which obviously would be brilliant if we're ever in that kind of situation. But injuries this season, they are killing us at the moment because we're just not getting the chance at the moment, are we? So. I mean, do you know what the rule is with the old loan players? Because I was trying to have a little look before I came on here at the moment, and I can't remember if we can or can't sign an emergency loan in goal at the moment in the Premier League.
No, I don't know what the rule is. It's the only position you think...
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, it's all right. It's the only position you think there might be some kind of exceptional rule that you might be able to bring somebody in. I guess you have to meet a criteria or present your case or whatever, and then the Premier League will rule on whether it's all right or not. But all that said, he's back in the team. We've seen a few players rise from, well, not the dead, but certainly from the doldrums this season. Junior Stanislas being a case in point, and they've been given their chance either. Well, mainly because there's been so many injuries, and Alsop could be another one.
Yeah.
You never know; he could surprise us. But it was enforced yesterday, and I was hoping actually he nearly kept a clean sheet in the second half, but he didn't in the end, which would have counted as a clean sheet for the time he'd been on the pitch. But he's back in the team, and he could be stepping out at Stamford Bridge next week. So it's a very, very sudden change when you're a goalkeeper, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, good luck to him as well.
Exactly.
Again, did you read the... I mean, we're going off topic as well at the moment, but did you read about the guy on the BBC last week he'd spent his entire career as a number 2 goalkeeper, and at the age of 38, he'd made his debut in the Football League. name. I think he played for Oldham, and it's a similar story to that. He's just kind of come from nowhere and found himself back in the limelight again. But I mean, you kind of hope that through training and things that, you know, and all the coaching that they do with the staff mentally, they're kind of prepared to find themselves in that situation. Because I mean, poor old Federici found himself in the in the starting lineup when we played City with 15 minutes notice as well. So
I don't even think it was that
it's a bit
long.
of a theme at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I mean, he was Boris was read out as being in the team, and he was all that, and he was warming up, and then Federici came out. It was like, what's going on? But yeah, so I think it was very very short amount of time. Anyway, we came out for the second half, and still nothing really appeared to be working. There was misplaced passes, and we were still to be second to everything. There was no zip in our play, and I thought Everton, as I said before, I thought they were really well drilled, and they didn't have the ball. They were well organised. They were difficult to break through their lines. But the thing that they didn't do, which we've already discussed, was they didn't go for the third goal. They were they wouldn't say they were happy, but they were just 3-0. The game would have been over. There's no two ways about it. I mean, 2-0, you'd put your money on Everton anyway, but 3-0, they could have just put their feet up, got the cigar, all those things, and that would have been it. But they didn't do it. What they did have one really good chance when Deulofeu robbed Arta, and he passed it to Coleman, who sent in this high cross for Lukaku. They obviously know Lukaku can handle himself with those balls that come flying in high and at pace, and you have to, you know, muscle your way in to get to them, and he did with this one as well. But he missed it. It was a volley, and that really would have been it. Also, it was kind of spread in front of him, and he made a mess of it, Lukaku. But they just didn't do enough to kill the game off, did they?
No, not at all. And you're right. I mean, I think 3-0 would have been dead and buried at that point, and I was surprised from where I sat. It just seemed like they just seemed really contentious to kind of sit back and let us huff and puff and not really yield too much from the effort. And
then we started to find our feet a bit. Smith seemed to make a big difference. He plays a much different game to Simon Francis on that side. He certainly bombs forward, but Francis always seems to bomb straight down near to the touchline, and then goes right to the byline, and then, you know, tries to cross the ball in tandem with Matt Ritchie. Smith always seems to come inside when he goes on his little runs and beats a couple of players, and he does do a good job. And he was having a kind of impact attacking wise. And he put the ball across the face of the goal at one point, and there was nobody there. And we were kind of crying out for a goal, because you just think, if we could just get one, then 2-1, you know, we've got a chance then of getting back into it, despite it looking so bleak at 2-0. And Ritchie had a good strike, and every time we seemed to get a shot, it seemed to go straight at Howard, or it wasn't hard enough, and all that sort of thing. But then the game completely changed, and for the better, if you're a Bournemouth supporter, and suddenly we were looking at a totally different situation. Eddie brought Glenn Murray on for Harry Arter. Harry was apparently clutching his hamstring. I didn't really see this. I saw him going off not looking too clever, which is a bit of a worry.
It's a worry. I mean, he I saw it happen. He kind of looked like he was up at the other end of the pitch, and he kind of just pulled up at one point, clutching the back of his leg. I think he tried to run it off a little bit, and then kind of went down, and it looks like it might be a pulled hamstring as well at the moment, which is just it's a worry again, because he's only just played his way back into the team. Not played his way back into. He's only just come back into the team following, you know, the long injury he had with his groin over the summer. So he was just starting to find his feet again, and now it looks like he might be out for, you know, another couple of weeks potentially. I'm hoping it kind of just came off as a precaution, because he's been so good since we've come back.
Yeah, I didn't think yesterday was his best game, actually. I thought out of the games he's played since he's come back, yesterday was probably his poorest. But you'd always want him in the team, because he just does so many things that we need: the passing, the terrier-like activity in midfield, and he's got some goals as well. He hasn't scored this season, but he's got a
lot of shots in the locker, hasn't he?
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, those sort of injuries usually are 3 weeks, but it depends how bad it is. Hopefully, it'll be less than that. But what that did was it didn't change the formation, but it changed the personnel, because Murray went up front on his own, King went out on the wing, Richie came over to the left hand side, and Stanislas was playing in the midfield, but appeared to be in an advanced role in the centre of midfield, and things suddenly started to turn around, and then we scored our first goal in the 79th minute, so 3 minutes after Murray came on, and Richie took a corner. It was headed clear at the near post. It wasn't a great corner, actually. He took a few that he swung in at the near post yesterday. He didn't really seem to do very much with them, but it fell to Adam Smith. He was about 25 yards out, I think, and he had lots of space. He had a couple of touches, and then out of the blue, he just rocketed it in towards the goal, and it curled away from Tim Howard and hit. It almost seemed to hit the corner of the bar and the post, and went into the net. And from where I was, there was a split second of silence, of like, what's happened there, and then suddenly the place erupted, because people realised we'd actually scored, and it was like, well, we're 2-1, and it's game on and all that. But it was a brilliant goal, but it also just came completely out of the blue, didn't it?
It did. I mean, if you go back and you look at the replays of it, I couldn't believe the amount of space that he was given. But I know for myself, when he hit it, I thought, nah, that's gone wide. It's gone wide. And every now and again, you see someone from outside the box, they hit it, and it's gone in about half a second after he's left his boot. Well, that one, I think, was about half a second after it hit the back of the net before he even registered what had happened, because he's proper wellied it. It's gone across. It hit it. I saw him hit it, and I thought, that's gone wide. You look back on the replay, it's got a real vicious curve on it. It hit the post, and you think, okay, that's bounced out again, and then it's rolling along the back of the net, and I'm kind of looking at everyone around me, and then just going mental, thinking, this is great. This is game on. Let's see if we can get something out of this. But
because suddenly it's 2-1.
What a strike!
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, if you watch it again, you can see Tim Howard turn around and look, where's that gone? And then he sees it's in the net. It's just like, he played pretty well, Tim Howard, although I think a lot of the shots went straight at him. But he's a decent goalkeeper and difficult to beat. But yeah, I don't think there was any saving that one. It was so accurate. Sometimes, like you say, you hit them and they just fly wide. But if you get them on target, they look fantastic. And he hasn't. I think he's only scored twice for us, and well, that's easily the best one.
I think that's half the surprise, isn't it? Because had it been someone like Richie or Arter, or maybe a Gosling hitting it, you kind of think, it's got half a chance of going in. But without kind of doing Smith any disservice, it's just you just don't expect it from someone like your right back.
No, I think you should shoot a bit more often.
Shoot more,
shoot definitely. More. And then everything turned in our. Like we talked about momentum earlier, we didn't really have much prior to that, but then you get the goal, and like we said, it's 2-1. You think, well, we can get back in it. And not long after that, we had the penalty appeal. And I've discussed this with a few people in the past 24 hours or so, and there's been. It's fair to say there's been a variety of opinions. When I watched it, it was Galloway and Smith went for the ball, and Smith went down. I didn't watch it that carefully. But it looked to me that Smith went down quite easily. But other people have argued that he was clipped in much the same way as Ayew was clipped by Francis last week. And somebody else suggested that he was pushed in the back. What was your view of that one?
So at the time, it was probably one of the most angriest moments of my entire life watching a game of football. Because at that exact moment in time, I as nailed on Stonewall a penalty as you will ever see. But looking back on it on the replay, I just don't know now, because he looks like he's gone down very, very easily, and it's almost like he's gone into the box looking for it. But if you kind of look at it, you've got an attacking player charging at the goal. He's got the ball at his feet and he's on target, and he's been taken down. I don't know. He would go down deliberately like that, but when you look back at the replay, that split second before contact's made, he's doing the swan dive. But it's a real difficult one. I think at the time, heart, absolutely penalty, but head afterwards, I don't know.
Yeah, I was up with everybody else screaming for a penalty. I mean, it's like every football fan, you say you don't want your team to be diving for pens and stuff. And I'm not saying he did dive; it looked to me like he went down quite easily. But
yeah.
I could be honest, I wouldn't have cared if they'd have given a penalty for us. I'd have thought,
taken it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's kind of double standards, but all football fans are like that anyway. You want one thing for your own team and something completely different for everybody else. You sort of relax your standards. I mean, obviously there's limits to this. You don't want certain things to be happening, but you're probably more likely to give your own players the benefit of the doubt, to say the least. I tell you, somebody who did think it was a penalty was Dan Gosling. He went absolutely mad. Did you see him going nuts? He lost his mind, and he got booked for that. And I thought he was gonna just like go. I didn't know what he was going to do. I was thinking, don't do anything like stupid, like push the ref like Paolo Di Canio.
Don't do it. Don't do it, Di Canio. But I think for my point, it's not something that we've. For all the penalties that we got given last year, it's not part of our game as such, is it? Whereas, so again, you go back to the Tottenham game and you look at Harry Kane when he's gone and the penalty that he won. It's part of the modern game now, isn't it? Where you've got a box at the moment. They're going to go down if there's any contact in the box, because you see so many of them give it. And there's actually, there's ways to do it, and it's kind of, you've got the ball that you're not going to get a shot, and you're not going to do anything with the ball at the moment. But you've got a striker or defending coming in at you, who you kind of anticipating that slide tackle going in there. So you just make it easy for the ref to kind of give them that decision. Leave a trailing leg here or something, so that there's some definite contact. And we all know, we all see it, and we all know it happens. But yeah. I just don't know if it was deliberate or not, or if he's just tripped over. I mean, it wasn't Brett Pittman against Liverpool where he's gone running in and just caught his toes on the deck and gone down. But you want to see a few more angles.
Yeah, I think that you either get them or you don't.
I'd have taken it. I'd have taken it.
Yeah, you either get them or you don't. And Swansea got their one last week. We didn't get that one. It didn't matter in the end. I mean, obviously we might have won if we'd have got that, but we might not have done.
Yeah.
And just after that, Lukaku went down in our box under a shoulder charge, and I can't remember who that was. That kind of, well, I don't know if he shoved him over or not. It was right down the other end, but the ref also said no penalty. And at the time, I remember feeling, the refs tried to even it up there by not giving that one. I haven't seen a replay of that, but
no, I haven't seen a replay of that one. But I think if the ref had given that one and not given Smith's, then there would have been 11,000 very, very angry people.
yeah, probably. Yeah. Probably the correct decision regarding Lukaku. R1, well, who knows, but he didn't give it anyway. But it then set up this dramatic finish. We scored again in the 87th minute. Gareth Barry committed a little foul on Glenn Murray, and Glenn Murray was very quick to his feet, and he took the free kick to Josh King, and King then charged forward past Galloway and played the ball across the box just like Adam Smith had a little while earlier, but this time it kind of evaded the Everton defence again. But Stanislas got there first and drilled it home, and it was 2-2. And it was a goal that kind of, I mean, obviously it was met with much delirium because it was in the 87th minute, and we didn't know what was going to happen after that. You kind of thought, well, this is going to be 2-2, we're going to be all right here. But it was also a goal that kind of represented the renaissance that these two players have had. I mean, Stanislas in particular, because he was in the sort of, the wilderness last year. He was coming on and he wasn't playing that well, and he wasn't exactly being taken to the hearts of the supporters. But also King, who seems to be improving week on week. I mean, the way he was fighting for the ball yesterday and just showing so much determination and giving his all for the team. I was really impressed with King yesterday. And I mean, those two, and I think I've probably said it the last couple of weeks. I mean, Stanislas is kind of my jaws on the floor seeing how well he's playing, and King, I was losing faith in, and he's improving. But I mean, it's just, Eddie says, no, these are good players. I've got faith in my players. And he said about King, the best is yet to come and all that sort of thing. And
again, he seems to. Well, I mean, it's blindingly obvious when you look at what he's achieved in the game compared to what I know about football. But it's just like you find yourself thinking, is Eddie watching a different game to me? But again, he proves to be right, doesn't he?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think I've ever been more delighted to be wrong about a player. I mean, I'll be the first one to hold my hands up and say, like, my opinion of Stanislas last season was it wasn't very good. I mean, every opportunity that he had to play his way into the team, you know, against Villa, and then against Liverpool at home in the cup, and you're just thinking, where have we found this guy from? You know, and what's Eddie seen in someone like him to play him into the team? And then, you know, he's gone away over the summer and he's come out. I think he said himself, didn't he, that he felt his best football had come when he was playing for West Ham in the Premier League. And you're like, yeah, okay, mate, we'll believe it when we see it. And then just brilliant, you know. It came back in, I think, at the Liverpool game in the cup at Anfield, and just looked. I thought, you know, he's looked really, really good, and he's just kicked on from there again and again and again. And long may it continue, really. So, sorry, Junior.
Yeah, it's almost like having a new signing in some ways, because we weren't expecting it, and now he looks every inch the player that we hoped he would be. And if he can add goals to his game, which he obviously did yesterday, then, you know, I don't think... I mean, Mark Pugh signed a new contract this week. Everybody loves Mark Pugh. I mean, I'm a big admirer of his. I've really enjoyed, you know, what he's done for the club, but he's going to struggle at the moment to dislodge Junior Stanislas from the team if he keeps playing like that, much like Junior Stanislas couldn't dislodge Mark Pugh last season. So, I mean, it's good. You want the competition for places. We haven't got that much competition for places because we've got so many injuries. Injured. Yeah, exactly. But, it's just been fantastic. And then, so obviously 2-2, we think, well, you know, we could get out of it with a point and it'll be a real boost, you know, come back from 2-0. It did turn out to be a real boost, but there was more to come. And we started to almost... It felt like we were pushing on for the winner, and if there was going to be a team that was going to win the game, it was going to be us. Although I certainly was, and I'd imagine if you'd have done a quick poll around the ground, you wouldn't have had time, but you'd have got most people would have settled for a draw at that point. And then I should have said this before. There's a guy and his lad that sit next to me, and every week they leave on 85 minutes. You know, and there was quite a lot of talk after the game about people leaving early. They left at 85 minutes yesterday, and it was 2-1. So they missed so much of what happened after that because
they missed all the good stuff.
Yeah, I mean the thing about people leaving early is it makes no difference to me whether they leave early or not. I can't remember ever leaving early, but I don't really mind if other people do, and I think sometimes people have got a genuine reason why they need to leave early, although other people do it to beat the traffic, as they say. My view of that is, like I said, I don't really mind what they do, but I go to football because I really like it, and therefore I'm not forced to go. It's not like I'm at work or something. I'm thinking, when can I go home? You know, it's like I sort of want to stay. I'm quite happy to stay till the end and
the game's
watch
90 minutes, isn't it?
Yeah, watch the entire match and also, you know, clap the players off the field. Or I might have booed them off once or twice over the years, but not often. But I think yesterday was a day for the people who leave early to perhaps reconsider their decision. I've only ever done it once, and I had to cast my mind back, and it was back at the ground, and I think we were playing Plymouth Argyle in the league, and they made it 3-2 with about 91 minutes on the clock, and it had been a really dull game apart from, despite all the goals, and I kind of remember thinking, this is terrible enough. I'm going home, and I remember walking down the stairs out the old South End club shop, and we scored almost straight from the kick-off. I was kicking myself all the way back to the car thinking, I'm idiot. I'm not going to swear on your podcast, but thinking, you idiot, why have you been so stupid? You know, you always say to yourself, you never leave to the end, and, you know, I've never done it since, but, you know, if you kind of look at the Everton goal when they scored, and, you know, I think that was the worst point for me, because, you know, the crowd were lively, everyone's willing us on, and you're right, you know, thinking if there's going to be another goal in the game, actually I fancy us to do it, because we've got so much momentum behind us. You know, this could be one of the best games we've
ever played. And, Everton went up the other end and scored, and it just sucked the life out of the stadium. At that point, I saw the exodus begin, and I was trying to stop people on my road from leaving. Like, no, go the other way. Go the other way. We still got 5 minutes left to play yet. The game's not over, and
no, I couldn't really understand where the 5 minutes of injury time came from either. In the first half, we had 3 minutes of injury time, and there was a reasonably lengthy stoppage for Federici and Cook's injuries. I don't remember anything like that in the second half. But yet they still found 5 minutes from somewhere. And I do remember being a little bit disappointed when he held up 5 minutes. I thought it was going to be about 2. And I thought, then we'll get the point. We'll see the game out and get the point. As it turned out, he held up 5. And I thought, oh, no, not 5 minutes. And then Everton, we were still pushing forward. But then Everton scored their third goal. And this was just, the goal itself was a little bit disappointing because we kind of looked, again, just a bit porous at the back. Barkley, Coney and Coleman seemed to play it around in the box. Coleman kind of fell under a distant challenge. It wasn't a foul. He kind of fell over the ball as much as anything. But it broke to Barkley, who then finished past Allsop. And, looking at it, you think Allsop maybe should have done better himself. But then there was this kind of epic celebration by Barkley and the other Everton players. They ran over to their
How many
fans.
elephants were there?
Well, there was quite a few on the pitch because it was, understandably they'd scored in the 95th minute after conceding, a late equaliser, so there was much excitement. Although it came back to bite them because the fans running on the pitch, and Bartley was giving it so much. Even after he'd finished kind of being mobbed by the fans, he then pulled himself away from that and was giving it more in front of the fans. There was more time being eaten up by all of this. It took them ages. Like, our players were waiting for ages to kick off, whilst Everton were...
Did you see Howard?
No, what did he do?
Howard was stood there and he was trying to call everybody back, and he was shouting. Obviously, you can't hear what he's shouting, but you could just hear his voice, and he was trying to and everybody back, because you're right. At that point, you got Barkley giving it the big in front of all of their fans.
And so that went on for what seemed like an age, and obviously everybody's thinking. I mean, some people are then leaving, like you said. There was quite a lot of movement at that point, and by the time we'd actually kicked off, the people that wanted to leave had probably left, because it took about 3 minutes to kick off again, and then. Martinez brought Gibson on for Coleman, which always happens. They want to waste a little bit more time. If they've got a sub left, they bring them on. And then apparently, or maybe it's just slightly before that, I'm not sure, the ref told one of our players or some of our players that he was going to blow the whistle pretty much from the kickoff. But for some reason, he found some more time. Maybe it was the substitution. Obviously, there was the lengthy celebration, and then we scored. I don't know what the latest is we've ever scored in a game, but apparently, according to the BBC, it was that after 97 minutes and 13 seconds, we scored our equaliser, our final equaliser, and Richie found Smith, and Smith then beat Cleverley and Barry. Two quick little flicks over those two players. They both looked. I mean, Cleverley hadn't even been on the pitch that long, but Barry just looked. They both looked knackered, to be honest. And then he played a lovely ball to Charlie Daniels, and then Charlie put in a really good cross. And there was 3 Everton defenders plus Howard in and around the penalty area, not picking anybody up. And Junior Stanislas, who I think he pretty much admitted himself, is not exactly known for his aerial prowess. He kind of, if you watch what he does, he sort of staggered his run and just let the defenders go off him towards the goal, and he sort of slowed down just on the edge of the 6-yard box, and then he had what was essentially a free header, and he rose and headed home, and he said he couldn't remember scoring a headed goal ever before. And obviously, then we'd equalised in the most dramatic fashion, and everything was just pandemonium, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think the last kind of 5 minutes of the game is everything you love, hate, and love about football, all in the smallest space of time that you could possibly imagine. I mean, I went crazy after the second goal went in. I've kind of hurt my shoulder actually because I punched the air at one point. It felt like my shoulder dislocated out of its socket and popped back in again, all one movement, which is an old football injury, but. And I thought that was as good as it was going to get, but Stanislas went in, and I was trying to get down the stand. I thought I've never really done a pitchy before, but I think if I could have got down the front in time at that point, I probably would have been on there. It was just an incredible end to a game. It's it's really, I don't know about you, but I find it really hard sometimes to kind of explain to people why you traipse around the country, go into your Grimsbys and your Carlisles and your Wrexhams and places of this world to kind of go and watch your team play. But it's for afternoons like that, isn't it? If you could just bottle that up and go and give it to someone and go, there you go, that's why. That feeling then that you get is just, you can't replace it. It was just fantastic.
Yeah, it's not an easily described emotion, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure it was the same way you were. I mean, around me, people were hugging. My mate Damien, who's been on the show a couple of times, he was actually wiping the tears from his eyes. We were laughing about it. I saw him this morning. And, it's just, I could barely speak after the game. I was worried I wasn't going to get my voice back for this podcast. And yeah, it's not something that you can really put into words, but when it does happen, which isn't that often, I think its rarity as well makes it more special. And you still feel on a high for quite a while after, as I certainly did today, because it's almost like you've touched an emotional plateau that you can't normally reach in everyday life, can you?
No, not at all. Did you see Cammy on? Have you seen the replays from Sky?
Yeah, he describes the equaliser and then he's sort of lost for words, isn't he?
Yeah, and you kind of look at him. Yeah, that's what I'm on about. You kind of look at him and go, yeah, we know. It's just you're just trying to look to someone. And you're like, you've just got to be there. You've just got to be there to understand what that's like. I mean, it was just incredible. I mean, if that's one of the highlights that we take away from however many seasons we play in the Premier League, then that's definitely the highlight so far.
Yeah, I didn't go to West Ham, so, and obviously I regret that now. So yeah, I mean, that
you and me both.
We beat Sunderland at home, which was great. Always great to win, but it was more of a thrill, even though we only drew yesterday.
Yeah.
What happened at the end of the game? Definitely my favourite game of the season so far. Did you see? I don't know why. Well, I know that it was for excessive celebration, but I don't know what happened because I wasn't watching. Because, this pandemonium was breaking out all around me. Do you know what it was that Charlie Daniels did that got him booked? Because it can't have been any worse than what the Everton players did.
No. Do you know what? It wasn't until after the game that I realised that he'd even got booked. So I don't know what he'd done wrong because, again, you go look at all the Everton players. They've kind of incited and beckoning fans onto the pitch, and I just thinking that they've won the Champions League again. And then Daniels is just kind of, from what I can gather, if you saw it, maybe you can explain it a little bit better. But from what I can gather, he was just celebrating and then walking back, and the referee's come over and given him a yellow card.
I saw the ref. I saw the ref pull out the yellow card. I saw him give him a bit of a telling off, and then Charlie give him a bit back, and then the ref kind of shrugged and just pulled out the card. And I thought, well, that must have been for something he did in terms of celebration. But I didn't see prior to that. I didn't see because you couldn't, concentrate on that. It's just like everybody was just going completely crazy.
Yes, with your new best friends.
Yeah, I mean that was a booking that. I'd like to know exactly what happened because he didn't look like he'd taken his shirt off or anything like that. It was because he crossed the ball in, so when the goal went in, nobody looked back at Charlie Daniels. Everybody looked at Junior Stanislas and the rest of the players, and then just looked at the people around them, and everyone was just going nuts and all that kind of thing. And so anyway, but I mean, compared to
like what was essentially inciting a pitch invasion by the Everton players. It was. I'm pretty sure none of them got booked for that. So there you go. Hopefully that won't be a booking that will come to regret if he gets a ban later in the season. And
he
then,
doesn't pick up too many though, does he?
No,
really?
no. He's really impressed me this season actually.
Yeah.
And then I had a look at this today. 98 minutes and 24 seconds. The ref blew up for full time, and even in that little. Whatever it was, 5 seconds from when Everton kicked off and he blew the final whistle. It probably wasn't even 5 seconds. I was still worried they were going to get another goal, but they didn't. And like we said earlier, and obviously from the way we've been talking this evening, especially about the latter part of the game, it feels like we won the game, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I think it's just because it was so unexpected, being 2-0 down, thinking, not again, and then having it so cruelly snatched away from us at 3-2 to go back and to do that as well was it was like a win. It was brilliant,
but it was only a point. Unfortunately, would have preferred to have got 3. So it leaves us with 10 points. You're looking at Newcastle and Villa, who both beat us. One, I think Villa was Villa 2-0 or 1-0? I can't remember.
It was 1-0. It's the only win they've had all season.
Yeah, they beat us at home, and of course Newcastle recently beat us at home, and they both look absolutely awful. And we were marginally the better team against Villa. We were easily the better team against Newcastle, and they've just got other teams just absolutely hammering them. And so hopefully, fingers crossed, Newcastle haven't had a change of manager yet, but Remy Gard doesn't seem to be exactly having any magic dust to sprinkle on Villa Park. Hopefully, that will be 2 of the 3 relegation places taken care of. Sunderland have changed their manager and seem to be improving. I can't see us changing our manager anytime soon. I certainly hope not.
No, we wouldn't want to, would we?
No, I don't think
Absolutely
so.
Not.
And then there's a few teams getting dragged into it. I was disappointed Norwich got a point today, even though Graben came on and scored, and that kind of makes me think, maybe they won't sell him to us after all if he's scoring goals for them. But there's a few other teams getting dragged down into it. I mean, Swansea, I think they lost today, so. And
Chelsea, come on, don't forget about them.
Well, I mean, Chelsea, not going to be sleeping easy this week with the prospect of us coming to Stamford Bridge. They are 5 points ahead of us. But I mean, if there's ever a good time to play them, this is probably it. But again, we've got new injury worries. We talked about Federici, we talked about Arthur. I'm not sure how badly injured Steve Cook is or not, but it's just another set of players that may not be available for selection. But I don't know what Eddie's going to do if Arthur isn't available. I mean, is he going to bring Nuno, Kane or Sean McDonald into the midfield, or is he going to play like he did yesterday and play, I don't know, Junior Stanislas in that role with Glenn Murray up front? Which way do you think it'll go?
I don't know. I mean, I think you're right. When I look at the table, I mean, we've got some crippling injuries at the moment, but I think when we look at the rest of the teams that are around us at the moment, we're so much better, but we're getting better as well, and that's the positives that we're taking out of it. Because you look at Newcastle, if you look at Villa, start off with, they're on 5 points. 3 of those 5 have come from the win against us. Newcastle will level with on 10 points. 3 of those points have come from a win against us. When I don't think I've seen us take a team apart like that ever. That was a ridiculous game. Sunderland are getting better, but I think they've still got some issues there as well at the moment. But Norwich is still around them, and I think they're going to be in the battle between now and the end of the season. And I can see Swansea and possibly West Brom, but West Brom being a little bit too strong, but kind of hovering really or flirting with the battle, if you like, towards the end of the season. But the injuries are a concern. I think I'm one of the few people that actually quite rates Sean McDonald, and I think that he would be quite a good player in this team. But his problem is Harry Arter and Dan Gosling, and to a lesser extent Nuno Kane and Andrew Sermon they're just ahead of him in the squad, because every time I've seen him come on and play, he looks all right, and he's looked like he can do a job, but it's just I think he's just been a bit unlucky with who else he's got in the squad. So to answer that midfield problem, I don't know. Maybe we can put him in there. But if you're looking at a prolonged Federici, potentially Cook and Archer as well, then it's making a difficult job even more difficult. Again, poor choice of language, but it's an uphill task, even harder, isn't it? So, I mean, what do you want?
I think it's possible that he will play the team that finished the game. I think that he could play Smith again at right back, and
what game did he do that for? Was that the Southampton game?
Yeah, Southampton.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah,
yeah, and Francis in the middle. But I guess that if he plays Smith on the right, and he also goes with King playing out wide on the right, they're not really what you'd say were a tried and tested partnership like Francis and Ritchie, because yesterday Ritchie came over to the left when Murray came on. But I think that's possibly what's going to happen. Or he might go 4-4-2, but I don't know if that... I'm not sure about that. I think away at Chelsea he's more likely to favour the one up front. But then he wants the pace in the team, so he could just, like you said, slot another midfielder in the shape of O'Kane or McDonald and play exactly the same system with the same personnel, apart from that one change. Well, I mean, there could be changes in goal and in defence as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see what he does. But I think the way that we've been improving, going away to Stamford Bridge, you think, well, this is going to be another one of these games where we're going to really struggle not to get hammered. But we just appear to be finding our feet, and we talked about the sort of emotional surge that came from the way the game ended yesterday. And I mean, for the players, that must be even more so. And they must, and to feel that high again that they had so many times last season, to remember what that's like. And they must still be walking around on cloud nine. And that's a huge boost going into a game against Chelsea, who obviously on paper are a much stronger side than us, but looking at the way their season's gone so far, if anything, we'll be the team going into the game with the, well, at least with the better mentality, won't we?
Yeah, and you're right there. I mean, I think if there's one thing that you can take away or you can label this group of players with, and it really kind of stems from the minus 17 days at the moment, is we don't really know what it's like to not succeed, because Eddie doesn't let anybody think that the bad stuff can happen. So you're like, we're 11 points adrift to the bottom of League Two. No, we'll be all right, because we've got to be all right. And and you kind of look at as you worded it many times on your podcast. He came back in when we were bottom of League One, waved his magic wand, and everything was kind of all right. And I think that just that culture and that belief is it's so ingrained in everybody at the club at the moment that I just don't think they'll have time to dwell on the fact that they've got the injuries. It's more of a case of, well, we can't do anything about that, but this is the group of players that we've got, so this is what we need to do, and this is what I want you to go and do, and people just do it, really. So I just think I think if you look back over the last couple of seasons, we've really been at our best when our backs are against the wall and everyone's been writing us off, and we've just taken great delight in kind of stuffing it back down their throats again, really. So I don't think I don't want to be overly optimistic, but I just think that we'll be all right. I mean, Chelsea itself is going to be difficult. I mean, if you picked the games at the start of the season that you're not going to have too many ambitions from, it's going to be United, City, Chelsea, Liverpool, and Tottenham. Sorry, Arsenal, not Tottenham. Sorry, Arsenal. Those are the games. They're just going to be nice days out, and we're going to go and we're going to sit there and we're going to go, wow, isn't it great that we're seeing these amazing teams in front of us? But everyone else, now we've got a chance against them, absolutely. And the reality is, actually, we're in the Premier League, but our competition is Villa, Newcastle, Sunderland, Norwich, Swansea, possibly Watford, but they look like they're now kind of kicking on and going above that. And if someone offered me now 17th place and 1 goal better than the team in 18th, I'd bite your arm off for it, really, because not even money that we get this season or the money that we get next season, but the club is actually changing before our eyes at the moment, and it's gone. I think are the days when we're scrabbling around in buckets at the bottom, for everyone's loose change at the bottom of League Two, and it's just we're becoming a real. I think we've becoming a real force at the moment. Certainly around the bottom of the Premier League and the top half of the Championship at the moment. So long may it continue.
Indeed, and I've had a lot of fun and a lot of good times doing this podcast since I started it over 2 years ago. But this season, not so much. Yeah. But thankfully, today we've been able to enjoy talking about what happened. We didn't win, but it certainly felt very positive. So thanks ever so much for coming on and essentially celebrating our point that we gained yesterday.
And what a point it was.
And let's hope we have a few more moments like that this season. So thanks a lot, Eddie.
That's all right, mate. Thanks a lot.
Good to hear from Eddie there, and I'm glad he was able to make his podcast debut in such happy circumstances. So, our first visit to Stamford Bridge since March 1989 is just around the corner. Let's hope we can add to Jose Mourinho's worries and continue our recent improved form. Stock the cherries in all departments, and goodbye.
This podcast is sponsored by the White Bear Micropub in Southbourne-on-Sea. No loud music, no TVs, and no ringtones. Just good ale, good conversation, and good times. Just like a pub used to be. Check out www.thewhitebear.co.uk.
Kone in the box for Everton here. Real danger. Kone pulls it back, cleverly trying to weave his way through, and it's gone in! Ross Barkley has won it for Everton with the last kick of the game. Literally 10 seconds of added time were on the watch, and Everton, having seen their lead disappear, have suddenly regained all 3 points. The Cherries are sunk. Bournemouth 2, Everton 3. Adam Smith picks the ball up and goes past 2 challenges. Smith plays it to the left-hand side. Charlie Daniels drives it across, and it's headed in! This is absolutely unthinkable!
Unbelievable!
The Cherries are going to draw this game somehow, and it's Junior Stanislas again with a header into the back of the net. How the emotions swing from one way to the other. The Cherries were down, they were up, they were level, and all of a sudden they're back level again, off the canvas, and in jubilation it's 3-3.